Public comment. All right, seeing none, we'll close the floor at 5:18. We'll head into board comments and committee updates.
Policy committee met, I believe it was 2 weeks ago. So there are some policies that we'll take a look at for the first read tonight. That's about it.
I had my health benefits committee today. We interviewed another insurance company, and we have one more to go. So, getting into it.
All right, head right into student rep report. Sean, you have anything for us tonight?
All right, yeah, I have some information. So the girls sadly lost in the finals. However, I just want to congratulate them for being the first ever girls team to make the finals in Newmarket history. And they did win against Groveton, which was the 2 seed, and I found that pretty impressive. We haven't beaten them in a while, so.
Okay.
Alana is running the New Balance Nationals. She's doing the 800. Not sure where that is or when it is, but that's what she told me. So. And obviously, a lot of sports are done. Spring sports are starting, I believe, on the 18th. The spring sports meeting will be on the 11th, I believe, next Monday. The Interact Club are in the beginning stages of planning Newmarket Cares Day, which this year is going to take place on May 3rd. SALT is planning a rivalry week with Epping, which is going to be for the baseball, softball season, most likely in Epping. Is like, because we do, theme days here, but then on Friday, I believe sometimes it will change, but usually on Friday we'll have games and at the field, like yard games, and then the team that wins will add points to their score and most likely win the week. And if both win, then it usually comes down to like how many people did the themed, how many people did the theme days. And they, and the SALT also walked with the Pines the other day. So we went over and just walked, either some of them wanted to walk outside, some wanted to walk inside. They didn't really like it after, so we'll probably not do that again. We'll probably just play like bingo with them because they seem to want to do that. National Honor Society is hosting the Red Cross Blood Drive on March 26th here at the high school, and they're also doing the Great Bay Marathon on behalf of Reach the Top Therapy Services. Amaya Beckles is hosting a 3v3 tournament this Saturday for both middle and high schoolers. And lastly, because Mr. Brandt's up right now, because now that I know the dates for sure, it is the school play will be on April 5th and 6th. That's all.
And what is that play?
Clue the Musical.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
When the Red Cross is coming?
I think it was the March 26th.
Thank you.
Yeah, March 26th.
And I hate to ask, but there was a snowman competition. Where are we at with that? Is that
Not going too great.
Okay. Hopefully people got their submissions in early.
Those submissions probably are going to win.
All right.
No, I'm still holding out hope, so we're going to have at least one snow day before this winter's over.
I don't
Yeah, I've heard about that
anymore.
myself,
I
actually.
feel like we'll just get 3 inches and be like, you can still drive.
Yeah.
Just get my hopes up. Yeah.
There you go. All right, head over to the superintendent report.
Great. If you don't mind, I've invited some friends tonight, just because there's a couple of items on the agenda later on that they wanted to just touch base upon. Andy, do you want to start us off? Andy?
Introduce
Yeah.
back here. Evening, everyone. Thanks for having us. And as part of your memo, which is the last page, I'm requesting per IJOA approval for a out-of-state field trip to Great East Music Festival, and I'm going to allow our performing arts folks to tell you all about it because I know about this much, and they are the experts. So without further ado, Mr. Tony Floyd and Mr. Brett Branscombe.
Good evening. So the Great East Music Festival, it is a New England-wide festival that hosts schools from various areas. They have schools like ourselves, bands and choruses, go perform. There are 2 judges that are there listening to you. They have a reporter. They report comments for you to later receive online to share with the students and internalize. Additionally, after that, they give you a score, a rating for your performance, and they give you a clinic after. This clinic, I think, is really important. It's a stranger professional that's different than the music teacher that they see every day. So it hits home a little bit more, as well as gives a completely different perspective how to perform music. 'Cause it's all about perspective. If you were to look at the itinerary, that would come across pretty clearly. Something I really believe and think is important about this event. When you go far away and you're not just in a regular concert setting with your friends and family, it pushes your comfort zone a little bit. Stage fright is a very real thing. Building up confidence through those concerts is very important. But having a venue outside of school grounds, I think, really empowers them. It also puts them in kind of a mindset of, we're in this together, this is our music program, and the strongest music programs always have students that feel ownership of the program. So I think Great East Music Festival is a really awesome opportunity for our students, as well as will strengthen our music program.
And I don't recall Newmarket going to the Great East Festival last year. Have we gone before?
They did go last year. They went to the Canopy Lake one, which is closer.
Okay,
This
gotcha.
one is out of state, bigger venue, just slightly bigger experience.
Yeah, historically, it's always been Canopy Lake.
Wonderful.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
Where is it on the state?
So what they do is they partner with amusement parks from around New England. The one that we selected was Six Flags New England. What they do is they request host schools from approximately like 30 minutes within that area. We haven't been assigned specifically which one it is yet. We will be going to that host school, performing, and then, yes, we get a discount to go to Six Flags as kind of like a carrot on top of the season.
Great.
Anything else I could answer?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. I have two more items I just wanted to bring to your attention that are about as diametrically opposed as possible. If you remember, as part of our NEAS self-evaluation and a finding on the visiting team report, one of the areas of concern for us was our safety operations procedures. We spent a lot of time last year building what's commonly known as a safety protocol, a flip chart of things. We've implemented a wide range of that. The last big piece is the part of what's historically been known as a lockdown. What we've been doing this week, Jay Fitzpatrick, Adam Durkee, and Rich McFadden have been meeting with individual groups by grade level to talk about the procedures specific to their classroom settings and what it will look like. We actually had the entire Newmarket Police Department here today, which was really nice. This happened to swing by and see the presentation. Kids are getting it directly from Rich and Adam and Jay. And if you notice, if you wander through the building, there's some logos in each classroom of identified spaces of where students will go during this. We're anticipating that we will train all of our students by the middle of next week, and we'd like to initiate a drill thereafter. When we do initiate it, I'll communicate out to parents in the community that we had a drill, this is what happened. But I just want to bring it up to your attention that we are actively doing this, and it's something that obviously has high value. It's been identified by staff, by our visiting committee, and unfortunately, the society we live in today, it's important that our students are aware of it. I can tell you, having sat through two of these presentations, one with 7th grade and one with our 10th graders, students completely understand it. They are taking this very seriously. They're very cognizant of why we're doing this and why we need this, and there's a general sense of relief. They're free to ask questions. Rich is doing a really, really phenomenal job. He's a great asset to have here. As students sometimes raise their hands, some of them write questions down, and they're running around taking them. It's just been a really good experience and something that is obviously quite sensitive for the varying age ranges we have in this building, but I'm extremely confident we're going to have kids ready. We've trained staff twice. We last year, once again this year, and we had a refresher at our last staff meeting February 14th when we were in Epping, right? So I just want to put it on your radar that that's something that's coming. I know things like this sometimes end up in your worlds, but just want to kind of lay out the plan of where we're at. Any questions about
I
that?
do.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you say that the procedures were specific to classroom location?
So every classroom, there's a generalized procedure of what we do when this type of thing happens. But due to the uniqueness of the classrooms in this building, every classroom has a unique spot for students to go in. We use a logo with it's a black half sheet of piece of paper that says it's a logo of the mule, and it's Rich worked with each classroom teacher to identify the spot specifically in their room where they would be the most safe in the event that we have a threat in the building. So if you walk in the classroom, sometimes it's over in that corner or that corner. It's right there next to Becky's. It's that black with that red mule on it. It's an identified safest spot in the in that particular space. So it's not, I can't always say you go in and it's the back right corner, because sometimes it's not, but the staff have put those up, and that's what we're reinforcing with kids, with teachers. And to be very honest, this is not going to be in any way, shape, or form a quote-unquote surprise. We are going to announce it. It is going to be methodical. I talked to Chief Jordan today. They are more than willing to come help and support us in this process. It is the partnership we have with Newmarket Police is phenomenal. But that'll be part of the very deliberate, very slow. We haven't done this in, by my estimation, at least 3 or 4 years. So it is new to just about everybody in this building. But we are actively working towards that.
So where the classrooms, where students change year to year,
Yep.
how will the education continue? Will it be through their teacher in that
Yeah, so
classroom?
we're
Or-
gonna, this model of essentially grabbing kids and having the conversation during advisory, we're going to, I find it a very effective approach. You get 50, 60 kids, 3 or 4 engaging adults, they do a slideshow. I think that's the best approach. We're gonna retrain teachers at the beginning of every year as a reminder. It's your classroom. We hope that you stay in there for a while. You'll know that this is our spot, this is Becky's space. She knows we're gonna get kids over here. But we are gonna reinforce that every year with kids, just like we do with staff. I think this model of training is pretty effective. We'll find out when we run it. But again, the feedback, both from the presenters, the kids, and just observationally, everybody's getting it, and it seems to be pretty good. So.
I think, I assume I know the answer to this, but best to ask. Some schools, I think, have tried to implement processes that simulate a more accurate event. I presume we're not doing
We are
anything like
not,
that.
no, sir. This is going to be my melodious tones on the microphone, on the loudspeaker, which is more than enough. And we'll announce the situation. The staff will go into it. We'll let them know. We have no interest at this time to simulate anything more than a very prescribed, slow-paced drill.
No, thank you.
Is there a hope to do it earlier next year?
Yes, yes, absolutely. This is something that we want to implement. This actually falls within some of the state law around fire drills and announced and unannounced. You may hear from the superintendent a little bit that we're taking a field trip in 2 weeks to have some regional conversation about this. The goal here is to front load, but want it to be admittedly very slow and very methodical off the get-go to make sure this is effective and safe, both physically and psychologically for everybody.
Thank you.
I believe you have one other item, don't you?
I do, and it is
Completely
completely different on the other end of the spectrum. This is the one that causes me trepidation. After a lot of conversation with some absolutely lovely ladies from our middle school student council, we are actively working to create and sponsor and make happen a middle school dance. Said it out loud. Specifically, the ladies and I have been having lunch together once every 2 weeks. We've gotten to the point now where we're anticipating and planning a 7th and 8th grade dance. 2 hours, kind of negotiations of 5 to 7, 6 to 8, but specifically for 7th and 8th graders. 6th grade, not in that same developmental point. We're gonna do an afternoon of activities, some board games. I'll tell you right now, one of the biggest things we have is Dance Dance Revolution and Name That Tune. As weird as it sounds, those are huge hits when we do middle school mental health days. But that type of opportunity for specifically 6th graders, I don't have a date. I've told them, I said I need to talk to my boss, I need to have the school board on board. I guarantee tomorrow they will come knocking, because I know the meeting is tonight. But just wanted to put it on your plate and take any questions if anyone had a major trepidation on that.
My palms are sweating already from thinking about it in the middle school.
You're looking at a guy who spent 26 years teaching middle school, and I chaperoned probably 100 dances in that time. So It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's the
I
extended
hear
lunch
that he's going to choreograph the
There
dance.
you
He
go.
might, yeah, he might be swinging by
There you
right
go.
now.
There you go.
I heard you're the DJ.
Even better.
I don't think people would like that, but that's okay.
That's all I have for you guys
Okay,
tonight.
thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Is there some reason you think we'd be opposed to it? Just-
Absolutely not. It's just, you never, I just wanted to put it on your radar
Okay.
I could,
without any
I could
historical
picture
context.
kids behaving in a certain way that might cause parents to be upset and lead to school board conversations, but I'm sure it'll be
I
chaperoned
remember in
well.
middle school dances was like the boys on one side.
I think times have
Things
changed.
have
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, no, mine doesn't really, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks, Andy.
Have a great night.
Thank you, Andy.
Okay, shifting away to the less enjoyable topics, I have a handful of things I wanted to mention. You probably have already received something from the town of Newmarket about the master plan visioning workshop that's coming up on March 16th. As you know, Phil is kindly representing the school district on the master plan committee, but this is really an opportunity for the community to get together and really offer input and feedback on kind of what we hope for the town of Newmarket in the coming years. So certainly if any of board members are available to be a part of that, I would encourage you to do that. They are serving breakfast, by the way, so.
How
you
would
need it
we have
in.
gotten this?
You should have gotten an email from, it's actually in the, it's in the newsletter from the town that
Oh,
comes
okay.
out. But actually, I'm planning to send out something tomorrow morning to the school district population, which will include the form that explains this, as well as some information about voting next week, just to remind people of that.
If there's any board member that wishes to attend, that happens to be my son's birthday party day, so I am otherwise, like obviously, like the.
You want us to go to the birthday?
Yeah, come to the birthday, so I can go to this visioning meeting. Yeah,
Makes sense.
Someone's gonna have to fill in, Dad. But obviously, like, we have a voice on the committee and everything,
Yep.
but during this session, if there's a board member that wants to go.
And that's 16th, you said?
It's the 16th, it's 8:30 to noon, 8:30 to 9:30 is breakfast, and then they'll get going with the dialogue starting at 9:30. And I'm going to go as sort of an outsider, just as, because obviously I'm not officially a Newmarketer, but I want to be there to kind of hear what people have to say. So, so that's one thing I wanted to mention. Next thing for all of you school board policy geeks, if you haven't seen, the new policy website is on our website. I won't unveil it now because I don't have a computer in front of me, but if you go to our, where you use the policy link, you will see we have, all of our policies have been uploaded into a system called Board Docs. And you may recall in our old system, when you'd go to look at a policy, you'd have to wait, I don't know.
An hour?
Half an hour, an hour. Now, you actually can open a section of policies and you can click seamlessly between all policies. It
goodness.
is amazing. Thank you, Jason Carey, for spearheading. But it is officially available on the website, and at our next policy meeting, we'll celebrate and take a look at it. But I did want to mention that to people.
Is he responsible for it, or?
Jason is absolutely, he's been very actively involved, as well as Patty Banfield. The two of them have really, Bob Higgins, yes.
I think I have capes for you guys. You're super, I can't, thank you.
Yeah,
But
bad.
this is a major upgrade, and I'm just thrilled to death. Again, I've already just mentioned, I will be putting on a communication tomorrow, but voting is next Tuesday, as we all know. Voting is at the town hall from 7 to 7 in the auditorium, so encourage everybody to come out and vote. And I just, one last thing I will mention, just as a follow-up. You may recall towards the end of last summer, we do required water testing, and we had a small number of our water sources that tested above the new lower state minimum standard for lead levels, and we have been working to mitigate that. We have now gone through 2 rounds of testing since then and have received 100% clean bill of health. Everything has been mitigated. And I just want to emphasize again, the spigots that were testing high for lead were not drinking fountains. They were things like the bathroom sinks or janitor
Custodial,
closets,
yeah.
custodial things. It wasn't any source where people, none of the cooking sources or anything. But it's 100% mitigated, and we will start the cycle of testing again in July and obviously continue to maintain that. But I have to thank Dave Riley and his team for taking care of that. So that's all I have.
Great. May have brought this up. last meeting, forgive me if it was, I just wanted to say, I had the opportunity to go to the potluck for the cultural thing at the elementary school back in February. I just want to commend the teachers that put it on. It was a really neat experience. Thank you.
Do you want to briefly mention CDC?
Oh, yes.
I knew you did. I just said-
Yeah, thank
I
you
had
for
a
the
feeling.
reminder, yes. Yeah, so if those of you who are followers of the CDC, in particular around the COVID guidelines, they have changed the COVID guidelines. We are in the process of putting it on our website to make sure we have the up-to-date and accurate practice. But it is much more, I guess I could say the word is relaxed in terms of the approach. So if you just simply testing positive does not immediately mean you can't be in the environment. It recommends obviously masking and doing the things you're supposed to do. But there's a whole series of guidelines, and it's a little more specific to individual circumstances. So I don't want to just say here's the new practice, but we are going to follow CDC guidance. So parents, please know if for some reason that were the case, we have the link to the CDC on our website. Please check that out, talk to our school nurses, and figure out what it means to you and their family. But it is a change of practice.
Great, thank you very much. Head right into discussion topics. First up, anyone receive any correspondence? No. Okay. Next up, we have a presentation discussion from Director of IT, Jason Carey, to talk about some of the efforts on securing our networks, including multi-factor authentication.
You look tired.
All right, good evening. So, you probably heard from Superintendent Allen the last year and a half. We spent a lot of time and energy focusing on cybersecurity, securing our networks, our student data, and that's all stemmed from probably in the last 2 years. A lot of attacks have shifted from usually you'd see corporations, universities, down to the K-12 school districts are under attack by cyber threats, a lot of them resulting in ransomware attacks, which can be very costly, especially if you have cyber insurance up into the millions of dollars. Downtime that can last weeks, disruptions, and a lot of these attacks are traumatic events, right? They have lasting effects for staff and students. So with that in the back of our minds, we've been operating and learning as much as we can, trying to defend what we have here. And with the 4-man team, it's tough, but doing everything we can to make a difference there. I mentioned to Superintendent Allen yesterday that in 2023 there were 102 attacks in the nation that resulted in either having to pay a ransom or significant downtime. We're talking days or weeks of disrupted learning, and 5 of those were right here in New Hampshire. So just because we're a small state, small districts, we're not any safer than LA or Miami or Orlando, to name a few. So facing the same threats with a small team, limited resources has been definitely challenging, but the good news is we're in the same boat as all the other municipalities and districts in the state. So it's kind of a banded effort that we're taking to try to put up a defense. So mentioned ransomware, that's kind of the worst case scenario, the one that keeps me up. And as much as we have in place, there's really no way to fully prevent it. But a little bit of luck involved there, and then again, doing everything we can. So last year for us, we wanted to do as much as we could. Quickly realized that we're understaffed and we can't do everything at once, and that it's just going to be ongoing, right? Cybersecurity is just going to be a major part of what we do moving forward. So last year was really gathering information, seeing where we stood, getting that baseline, and part of that involved a cyber or a ransomware readiness assessment by a federal agency. Came in, sat down with us, grilled us for 4 hours. It was more of an interrogation, but it was good. We got a good report. We scored better than we thought, which was great. And it also gave us a roadmap and specific objectives that we can aim to accomplish over the next years, right? Some things cost us no money, it's just change management, and then there's some things that are tens of thousands of dollars to implement, and those are more recommendations. So that was last year. Getting the baseline, gaining support. Superintendent and Intendant Allen's been great. The rest of the administration's been great. They understand that it's not just an IT problem, and that it's going to affect all of us. We all need to be involved in the effort. This year, kept researching, right? There's still a lot we don't know, a lot we're learning, and we participate in any information sharing networks that we can. Because we're a school, we get a ton of free resources out there from federal agencies, state agencies, and we've tapped into everything we can. Information sharing networks, different grants, great grant program in New Hampshire that we've been participating in, which gave us all the YubiKeys, probably $8,000 worth of YubiKeys, which allowed us to set up multi-factor authentication for all of our staff, training, certificates to get my team trained up for cyber training. And then we actually they came out, they partnered with a third party out of Portsmouth that comes out and provides training to all of our admin team, all of our educators, paraprofessionals. We had one back on Valentine's Day where they came in and met with just Jana's team and anyone that's touching anything financial, and spent 2 hours with them, letting them know best practices and scaring them, basically. That's what a lot of this is. So
And I've been through 3 of the trainings, and every time I walk away scared of something. So
yeah,
thank you,
and then we
Jason.
take a step forward, and then there's something else to be worried about. So, but one step at a time. And our big goal for this year was creating a culture of cyber awareness, which I think we've done a real good job on. And the message hasn't been coming from me or my team. We bring in a third party, and teachers are asking great questions. Laptops are closed during the presentations. They're dialed in. They're nervous. They're asking about changing passwords, and it's been very effective. So happy there. Again, with the report for CISA we went through, this year was really grabbing any immediate needs or any low-hanging fruit, stuff that didn't cost money, stuff that we could just manage in-house on our own. Some things were as simple as burning documents that we had where there was a password in there. So little things like that we got flagged on that we were able to immediately correct. So those were good. I mentioned the state and local cybersecurity grant program through the state of New Hampshire, where we got a lot of free resources. Another one that we're looking at, which I'm excited about, is changing our domain name from the newmarket.k12.nh.us down to probably be newmarket.gov or newmarketk12.gov, to be determined. But there's a lot of added benefits from that. We're no longer hosted on the state's DNS services. Would be in a better environment for our web hosting or domain hosting. I mentioned the certificate programs, and one of the most recent trainings that we did was with the whole admin team, and we had a third party come out, and we did a tabletop exercise for our incident response plan. We're in this room, got together, walked through a scenario, ransomware scenario, and we're able to vet the plan out. We have some edits to make, and eventually we'll come back and present that plan here and try to officially adopt it. So just at least have a plan in place for a response. So that was this current year. We've done a lot of things. I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch, but those are the highlights. And next year is really starting to look at more long-range planning. I know that's something Superintendent Allen and I have talked about, really for cyber stuff, especially ones that may cost a few dollars to implement. So business continuity is another one that we'll start working on next year, putting together some formal plans. But I mentioned the culture, the awareness has improved, and we have monthly meetings at the SAU office with the office staff down there, Patty and Jana's team. And at one of the last meetings, the conversation for the whole meeting was around business continuity, and Patty Banfield was saying, what happens if we don't have internet for a week? How am I going to get this done and this done? So it's becoming at the forefront of people's minds, and it's great for me to see that I'm not the only one worrying about it. So any questions? I know we got you set up with your MFA and password reset coming tomorrow, so.
this is either your lucky or unlucky day, I guess, depending on your point of view, because we just went through all of this at work over the past 3 months. So do we have right now encrypted off-site backup for all the key systems that we rely on?
Yes, but we'll probably get to a conversation about backups at some point in the future. So we have a good system in place for backups, but there's always room for improvement.
Financials, are we hosting that on-prem or in the cloud?
Off-site. So we're in a good spot where 95% of things are hosted off-site in the cloud, which has been a slow process, but there's only one system that's hosted here, which is not public-facing, which I was mentioning to Superintendent Allen last week. We were able to go to a training where they looked through another attack forensically and presented it for 2 hours, another district up north. And where in the past we saw these attacks that were phishing, usually phishing-based, email-based, and kind of a spray and pray. Maybe Andrew clicks on something, get into his district. The latest attacks have been old school, someone on a keyboard actually hacking into a public-facing website with some vulnerabilities or exposed vulnerabilities. So the landscape's constantly changing. What we talked about in that tabletop exercise a month ago, where they said, hey, if this happens, do this. What we learned at the last training was, don't do that. We want to leave the attacker in your environment, possibly, to be able to see what they're doing and go ahead and use that to remediate. So it's interesting and scary.
I assume we have a process for updating all our software on a regular basis.
Yep. Yeah. So it's funny, at the trainings, they always point out, what is it? Corporations, I think they say,
It's like 3 for every 12.
for 100 people, I think 3 or 4 IT staff for every 100 users. So we're a little, but at least patching, it's basically prioritizing, right? We can't do it all, so what's the most effective?
Yeah.
But we do have patch management in place.
In terms of like, MDR and SIEM response, is that something we're doing in-house, or do we have third parties who are spearheading that?
So definitely not in-house. For the MDR, that's something in our FY25 budget. No, 24. Next year's budget.
Okay.
So we're going to
25.
expand
Next year's 25.
I don't know what MDR means.
Yeah,
Managed
no
demand,
clue.
managed demand response.
detection response.
Detection response, I'm sorry.
So we're going to expand on our current system, and that was part of next year's budget request, to where we don't have a security team in-house, especially after hours, and that's where that really pays off. So basically have a professional team. That's part of our current antivirus solution or endpoint protection and antivirus, to monitor our network 24/7 and flag us. Actually, Lowell School Districts, I think just this week, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, was someone got into their environment, and because of their MDR, they were able to stop it. And I think they must get their internet or domain services through the city, and they saw it and shut them down. So
Yeah, I need
So is that why you
the
want-
mental model for MDR, room full of nerds 12 time zones away who are in the middle of the night watching what's going on here.
looking for anomalies.
Yeah.
So is that why you wanted to change the domain name to government?
No,
Or-
there's other benefits there.
Oh, okay.
Our domain right now is better than a .org, where it's managed
Oh,
through the
okay.
state. You know that the only person that owns, or only organization that owns that domain is receive that domain through the state. And same with the .gov, it's even
Mhm.
more secure where it
Oh,
comes to
okay.
the federal government. And they also have some different protections in place that are baked into that solution that they use. Without getting too deep into it.
Does it cost a lot to change the domain name?
So that's part of the grant, and it's all
Oh,
free.
okay.
Even the actual, they said they'll even give us letterhead with the new address.
Wow.
Who's
whatever,
they?
whatever they cost. The state DOIT. we have a new Chief Information Security Officer at the state, Ken Weeks, who's, since he's come in, there's never really been any help from the state, and that's changed big time. He's trying to help everyone out, especially schools in town, and same with our insurance provider. They've done a lot. They helped us develop our incident response plan. So.
Yeah. I do want to just say, too, that I think Jason has been very aggressive in pursuing the kind of external supports we need. And so what it has done is it's in many cases moved Newmarket to the front of the line. We were talking about that threat assessment that because they knew you and they said, hey, we got an opening for this thing. Would you be interested in having us come and do this sort of a assessment thing? So what he's been able to do is to make connections that have made
Sure.
more resources available to us, which I think is really helpful. The UB Keys thing, I mean, not everybody got the level of support we did on that. So I do think Newmarket is slowly becoming a role model for how to deal with cyber issues in New Hampshire in schools.
It's awesome.
And thanks to Jason for
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much.
All right. Any other questions?
I actually learned more than I ever want to know about computers and
Glad to hear it.
ransomware and all
I
this.
have tons of questions, but I'm
expect
not going to
to-
geek out like that. I'm always
Expect a password change tomorrow around
Okay.
noon on your
All right.
Newmarket accounts.
All right.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Another password.
Next item under discussion is superintendent evaluation, which we've completed, provided to Todd. Todd's had an opportunity to review it, and if you'd like, we can certainly meet in non-public later to discuss it, or if anyone wants to discuss it with Todd, we can do that. There is one outstanding item regarding his contract, and that would be the COLA adjustment. As contractually, we have a 3 to 5% COLA adjustment, so the board would have to decide what that is, and probably someone should negotiate with Todd. So we have to.
Is it, I'm sorry, in the contract, does it say when that needs to be decided? Not that it needs to be pushed back, but it's,
That's a great question. I don't know.
It's, the plan right now is administrative contracts are coming before the board on March 21st, and my hope was to include my contract in that group. So ideally, it would be now, but my contract can be whenever we want, as long as it's in place before July 1.
Can we authorize someone from the board?
We certainly can. It probably would behoove us to make someone who's definitely going to be on the board past the next election. So, because there's 2 seats that are open,
The vice chair?
that would make sense.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
This is probably down the line here, but just because it's the topic now, it seems like this is something that should probably go on the new school board member kind of calendar type thing, so it does come up. Like, should it be put in the March timeframe?
Okay, makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah.
I believe there is something referencing administrator contracts in March. I
Oh,
think
okay.
there's something in there.
March or April, yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
maybe something that we can go
Oh,
over.
no, there is no
Okay.
March, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to
I
add.
mean,
Not
the state deadline for contract issuing for teachers is April 15th.
Right,
So
you
we've
put
just tried to.
that,
Okay.
not,
Yeah.
not the,
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
And as far as you had asked, I mean, I'm happy if you want to talk about the evaluation in public, or if in non-public. I'm satisfied with the evaluation. I appreciate the feedback you guys gave me. It was clearly a very thoughtful, well-done evaluation that it was nice to hear, to see that you guys do listen to me.
I was going to say.
I do appreciate
I was going to say. Thanks, Dan, for for spearheading that and spending a lot of time on it. Appreciate it.
Can I
Yeah,
ask,
go ahead.
now that we've gone through this process, this makes a new policy, how do we feel about it?
I don't think we've gone through the entire process, right?
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
it's not June yet, but I
Okay.
do like the fact that we've done it earlier, and that'll allow us to start having goals much earlier, and I think it makes a lot of
With the
sense.
narrative and the indicators, did we feel like they were clear enough when we were, when you wrote, yeah?
I thought so.
Okay.
I mean, as I think about doing this again next year, I mean, you almost can't start too early, although obviously we can't start in July because we haven't done anything yet, but
Yeah.
you know, there's that, and then just next year, whoever spearheads it should probably shoot to be more organized than I was about,
Well, now
just-
that you have that experience.
Yeah.
You're just a candidate for the job.
But just, we should all probably try to, in advance, agree on what the cadence of back and forth is gonna
Yeah.
be on,
Yeah,
you know,
that makes a
from
lot of
turning
sense.
draft to turning draft. You
Yep.
know, I mean, I don't think I'm revealing anything particularly secret, you know, we turned 3 drafts of this basically.
There was probably more back and forth than needed to be.
Yeah, and it, probably that would be the biggest improvement we could make, I think, is just really nailing that cadence down so everyone knows what's expected and when it's expected and can plan their lives accordingly.
Great, thanks. Next item, we have, one of our policies talks about school board self-evaluation on our goals. So our goals are actually included on page 1 in our meeting materials. So thought it'd be good to take a chance to review those a little bit, see what we've accomplished. Anyone, please jump in, but I think we've accomplished a vision of a graduate, largely thanks to Todd and the staff here, which has been fantastic. And I've heard it mentioned more than once in policy discussions and other presentations, so that's great to hear. Current and future needs, I think we've made some progress. As Todd mentioned, Phil's on the town master plan committee, which is fantastic, and it's going to be very helpful. Demographics, I don't think we've really come to any particular
No.
decision on doing that. I think we kind of hoped to do something with the town, and hasn't quite come to fruition yet, but it may be something we can work on next year. Please, if you want to stop and talk about something further, interrupt me. I'm not great about asking if people want to question it. And then we've talked about strategies to address declining enrollment. We have come up with one strategy, and that's to kind of reach out to other communities, see if they'd be interested in sending students here. I think we sort of reached out, and maybe Phil can do this on our behalf, to the planning board and to discuss the fact that having kids in town and people moving to town with kids is not necessarily a bad thing.
It's so on that Saturday session, one of the things we're going to be talking about is type of housing,
Yeah.
right? So how do you want to zone for types of housing, like, and that's a component of this, how things are zoned.
Yeah, absolutely. Communication for the district, I don't feel like we really touched too much on that. I think we all had some ideas about social media and stuff, but the time wasn't really, we didn't have the time to do it, and things were still kind of recovering, so I think maybe that's something else that we could carry over.
This is not a board thing, but I did want to mention that we are going to be launching a new website very shortly that's been retooled, which
nice.
will hopefully at least provide news articles about happenings in the district. So it's going to be on the main page. So that will be
Oh, that's great.
that will be an avenue for us to use.
So Todd, how do you feel about something like a social, Facebook page, or? I never really got your.
I mean, I think you have to communicate with people to where they get their information from. The challenge of doing social media is getting somebody who's going to manage it and
Right.
and stay on top of it and provide accurate information. As long as, I mean, I think it can be a very valuable tool. I mean,
Yeah.
the number of people who get their information from Facebook, Instagram,
Right.
TikTok, whatever, is
Right.
pretty significant.
Yeah.
I know some districts have, I made that a stipend position for like a
Really?
teacher, where like they become like the center point. So like all the coaches and clubs and all that will send information to them, and then they'll be responsible for
Oh, that's a good
managing
idea.
the page.
Mhm.
So at least there's someone that's filtering and
Right.
all that, but that of course is an investment on the side of the district.
Right.
The challenge then becomes someone filtering out, like if someone writes something obscene in response or something, like how
Well,
do you,
you
like,
just
Yeah,
keep no
just
comments
disable
off.
co- yeah,
You can
disable
turn
comments.
comments
Yeah,
off.
I don't think
Right.
any comment, yeah.
Yeah, no comments at all.
Didn't the town create a part-time position to?
They have created it. It's in the budget, which we're
Really?
voting on Tuesday. They've earmarked, I want to say, like $15,000
I think it's
to do
13,
some,
but yeah.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
13. Okay.
That'd be a great, like an internship type thing for
ELO.
someone.
Yeah.
Mm.
ELO, yeah.
You The only note of caution I'd sound is like, make sure you're actually putting adequate resources against it. This feels like something that could become bigger than you initially imagined it to be.
I think one thing too is I think when we did the orientation or the workshop, there was, you mentioned about the idea too is like the time resource aspect of it. And asking administrators to be on top of it is a ask.
Todd and I discussed a long time ago that there are some tools that allow you to kind of create the message in one place and it broadcasts it out for you. It seems like, yeah, something like that might be necessary.
Yeah, there is, I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's like something Square.
Parent Square.
Parent
Oh,
Square,
okay.
thank you.
Parent Square?
Parent Square. And it is a communication tool that you can simultaneously do, text messages. Like if you're doing if you're sending out this school cancellation, you can do a phone message, you can do a text message, you can do a social media post, and so it can simultaneously do all those things at the same time. But it might be something worth taking a look at,
Yeah.
just as a way to communicate.
So does anyone have any overall thoughts on our goals and how we handle them, and what are any self-evaluation thoughts you want to share? I think we did a pretty good job, I think we'll get better every year as we.
I mean, I put checks next to, I think, 4 things on
Right.
this list, and the others I put kind of a plus minus that
Yeah.
could have done more, did some things. The only one that, and again, not completely within our control, but, the demographic study that didn't go in. So,
I think we could have more systemically been like, okay, how are we like actually tracking? Like, what are we doing? Like, it's one thing to have goals, and then have like, okay, what are we going to do aligned to that, right? Like, really allowed that to filter out. Like, I think honestly, most of what we accomplished, the administration really. I mean, they do most of the work anyway, right? The administration and the faculty. But we probably could have had a more systemic way. I don't have an answer to it. I'm just saying that, like, looking forward more, just as learning from this, like that, how do we, next iteration, be like, okay, what are we doing to track this and ensure that we're actually planning activities against it?
One of the things I would just suggest is with the change in the superintendent evaluation process and board goal setting, the closer we can simultaneously do those processes, then you can map things out.
Yeah.
So one of the things that happens sometimes is it's May, June, July by the time we're finalizing the board goals, and by that point, the administrators have already made many decisions about what's happening within the schools. If you could make those, like if we have a board retreat, which I know we'll talk about next meeting with the new board members, and you make one of the main outcomes of that establishing joint goals, so that you walk out of there with what are we working on, and maybe the actionable steps, and then you can work to refine them from there. But I think that's important on the front end.
Will you guys forgive me if I mentioned something maybe just looking forward to the future when it comes to the goals? Will you guys?
No, please.
can't make promises.
No, well, no. Having gone through.
Can
this
you write
retreat-
into the board? Can you come to a meeting? And
Yeah, actually, I do. No. The last 2 years, we've had some really good goals, and a lot of it was creating structures and processes, which we definitely needed. It just, reflecting on this and where we are now, where we look at the future is like maybe a focus on student learning. I think we also
Absolutely.
hear the test scores kind of with a pit in our stomach. And now that we've kind of like built the foundation, we have an opportunity to really tackle some big problems. Not big problems, but problems.
Totally agree, 100%. I think that's a
Yeah.
great.
yeah.
If we're not making progress on that, everything else we're doing is a bit.
Window dressing.
Yeah.
And it communicates priorities to everyone else. So,
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Thank you for
Great
saying
point.
pleasure. I'll be up there next.
Next, we have some policy first reads.
That's a
we-
discussion one first, right?
Well, I was going to say we've policy first reads, but we did break out a few of those for discussion because they're, I think, items that we either want to get more input from the board on, or are things that Todd pointed out that we've kind of has created conversation in the past, and we want to make sure we provide opportunities for the board to talk about them, particularly like the lunch program that we've talked about. So, the new board orientation. BIA. I don't think there's any changes to BIA. What was there? Was a small one, right?
So,
No, BIA, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, no, go for it.
I was just going to say, the only change to BIA was we removed the part that we replaced with the new BIA-R.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, it's kind of weird situation right now that I was able to create, or we met as a policy meeting, and kind of agreed that there was a need, that we really looked at the new board orientation. And then I said, okay, I'll tackle it. And we're kind of in a situation right now where obviously I won't be on the policy committee next time they meet as a board member. So perhaps like some of the discussions here might normally be done in the policy meeting, but obviously just because it's the circumstance. But I don't, please speak up, Phil, but I'll tell you, like, when I first got on the board member, like, this was the first thing that was given me, and it was very overwhelming, and it just left a really bad taste in my mouth. And I think that it's unfair to Todd to do this as a new board member as well. That this is what the relationship is based off of at the very beginning. So the idea was to create something that was a little bit less intimidating, something that people would actually use and read, but maybe not necessarily what we call like a new board member, but really is a board member orientation we could constantly reference back to. So with the BIA, we talked about just eliminating specifically, so this is on page 4 of the packet, eliminating the specific lists of things and just say refer to the R document. So, because some of the stuff on here, I never saw. I don't know if you guys have. So I just thought this would leave less stuff to update, and it's more based on what we needed than what's on the list. Are we comfortable with that?
I think you kind of have to do that, right? I don't think, if you put something in multiple places, then you have to worry about updating it in multiple places, and then something gets forgotten, so, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I put some comments in
I saw that,
like,
yeah,
I'm sorry they were so late.
No.
But I do think that, I think overall one, like, first of all, I did a ton of work to like rewrite this, so I think we need to recognize how much time was spent. That I think is a significant like improvement in the RDoc from the previous one, because I agree, right? As probably the newest board member, right? Like that, when I first got here, like I got that, and I was just like, I felt very like, we're in charge of policy, but the only policies we got were the school board policies, not like all the policies, or even like a direction towards where they were. There's that, I think that this is a much cleaner, sort of like, not overwhelming, sort of like, hey, here's what your responsibilities are. I do think there's a few places where I was like, I think the ED 303 rules, like that really, like we go straight from RSA 189 to our policy BBA. I think the ED 303 rules clearly lay out, these are like the 8 things that a school board does. I think it'd probably be good to directly reference in here. But like other than that and a few other like smaller comments I had in here, it just felt like a significant movement towards clarity, so that when someone comes onto the board, they're able to feel like, okay, I can actually productively engage, understanding what my roles and responsibilities are, rather than taking 6 to 12 months to even figure out like the orientation.
So I started this, and it was more of a narrative, and at page like 12, I was like, this is ridiculous. So I went back and I specifically started listing as giving really brief summaries of policies and then RSAs. I didn't even think about looking in the board rules, so at least people know what to reference. And I felt like that was better, because if something updates, we don't have to update 2 places, but it sends people to where they need to go. Are we comfortable with that as opposed to a narrative?
Yeah, I think it's better.
Okay.
No one reads prose anymore.
Okay. Okay. And then my other thing is, I really try to limit the web links in here, because web links break. And unless someone's constantly regularly checking this, it could get very frustrating if you go here and it's not there. Are we okay really cutting down on the web links?
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay. Okay. So one other thing is, I would personally love to have this live on the website under the board, so it's not only very quick to access to new board members, but also the public. What do you guys think about that idea?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, you want people to run for these positions, right? So what better way to facilitate that than, I mean, probably the most intimidating thing about deciding to run for this, other stakes into the ground in February is, what am I actually expected to do?
Yeah.
You know, what are the responsibilities? What am I getting myself into?
Yeah. I think it'd be a lot better too, just the first time like Todd or the chair, whoever meets with a new board member, that it's not based off of this. It's like, hey, there's this resource, but let's talk about building this relationship.
Yeah, and I was going to say that historically, the chair and the board, and the superintendent, meet with a new member and kind of go through it. I think with you folks, COVID, and it was a little different of a process. So it'd be nice to get back to kind of that,
Yeah.
that little more conversational, sit down, oh, here it is, let's go through some of the items, and so you know where to find them and what might be, you know, we can answer questions and set up, understand expectations.
So that was gonna be my question, like, is that meeting between the superintendent and the member of the chair, or the member of the board, immediately after the election, or is it
Well,
after
it
the
can't be
reorganization?
because we have to
No, it's
restructure.
it's after the election. Well,
Before
that's
the-
true.
Right.
That's true. It'd have to be.
Right. It'd have to be the
technically, depending
second
on
meeting.
depending
Yeah.
on whether or not. Oh no, you're right. Because
Yeah.
the chair, the former chair, could do that, but you're right. It would technically should be after the first meeting, which is a little awkward. So.
So one idea I had was that maybe in the last meeting before the election, the board identifies someone that reaches out to the new board members, and so there's someone welcoming that the newly elected people onto the board. It's with someone that's already existing here, so they could sit down with Todd and the new board, and that relationship's built right away, as opposed to waiting after the reorganizational meeting. Because the reorganizational meeting is kind of overwhelming, because a lot of decisions have to be made right away.
Right.
What do you guys think about that?
That would be this meeting.
I know, that's what I meant. So, but like just.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
And I might have got ahead of myself, but I did reach out to Lonnie,
Yeah.
the only.
Haven't you had the election?
I know, but as a candidate, just to say, hey, do you want to come in and talk? So we're trying to find a day next week
Yeah.
for that to happen, so.
Well, which you should have. Like, I don't want you
Yep.
to think that that's something
Yep.
that.
No, it isn't.
But
Yeah.
I was just thinking about ways to try and build bridges right away,
Yeah.
and that's something that popped in my head. We don't make that decision now, but it's an idea.
It's a great idea.
Okay. My last question. I know Phil sent me some comments because he's on the policy committee, excuse me. And then Patty had mentioned you guys sending her comments, if you guys had any. So I'm obviously on the board for another 5 days. I can make those edits. And this will go back to the policy committee when they meet again at the end of March. The problem is, though, we're going to have at least one new board member between now and then. Are we comfortable giving them to them instead of this, even though it hasn't been approved by the board?
I mean, that's not the R document. That's just the thing we've done.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're under no policy
Yeah, we don't have to
requirement to
give
give them
that.
that.
Okay.
Yeah,
But we're okay to tell Todd, send this to whoever's new on the board.
Seems like a vast improvement.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then my other question is, obviously I can make edits between now and election day. This will go back to the policy committee in March. I don't need an answer now. Obviously, I'm not a member of the board, but will you guys feel comfortable if I went to that committee in March to talk about this?
I mean, it's a
Absolutely.
public meeting that any member of the public can attend, so you
Okay.
would.
Yeah.
Consider yourself invited.
I'm sorry?
Consider yourself invited.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I just didn't want to put my nose where it didn't belong. Are we okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, very cool. And then my last question is, this is going to have to live somewhere as a Google Doc with editing purpose. So the decision is going to have to be made about who has access to that and has the ability to give someone else editing access to it, because this is going to have to be looked at and revised.
I was just, it's too bad that we didn't think of this while Jason was still here. Maybe there needs to be a repository somewhere in G Suite for the board where we can keep persistent documents that are meant to.
So
Like
that
easy-
that was something I talked about before even last session, I think, and I think it's a great idea, and I think that ended up morphing into this document because you either have a public space that people can just put whatever in, and then kind of who manages it, people forget about it. But if we do it all in this doc, then that kind of becomes.
Yeah.
But it could be, depending on what the documents are, it could become too large. Like for instance, the budget flyer. It'd be nice to be able to have that for people to but it would have to be public.
Right, no, I mean, and I'm not suggesting this wouldn't be, I'm just, there.
My thought is that could easily be created that myself and Patty Banfield could manage, and then when people need access to it for a particular purpose, we can make sure they have access
Right.
to it. I think when it comes to documents that are reflecting decisions of the board, you need to make sure that there was officially a decision made, and if you could, a Google site could become a meeting if people are going in there and commenting and editing, so you want to be careful there. You're probably better off not to do that.
Todd, can I ask you, on Tuesday, does my account go poof? Or do I completely lose access to it?
I assume so.
I mean, that would be the normal
Yes.
approach. If
Okay.
there were a specific reason that you needed, because you were doing something.
Well, it's
When is the
probably,
new
probably
members-
on, it's probably on Wednesday technically,
Yeah, right.
after the election's certified and
Okay.
Yeah,
just
right,
want-
certification, and the new member has to be sworn in, correct?
Right.
Yes.
before the old
Like,
member.
Is this a member, are you a member until the new member is sworn in? Is there like a lame duck period?
I don't
No,
think so.
because his term ends.
His term ends that day.
Yeah.
I think after
No,
the
I-
election, once the election's certified that night, I think.
I'll give you the counter example, which was Steve Fournier was trying to convince Tony Weinstein that she was still a town councilor until they found somebody to fill that open spot.
That's not true, though.
No,
Yeah,
it's
I
a
don't think-
term.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, that
but
term.
It's a
I'm
term.
just- I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
So you, yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I
I
just
mean,
want
if-
to make sure that this is passed off to someone, so it's not lost in my
Absolutely.
Google folder.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah, absolutely, you should
So
send
who,
that to.
so it is gonna be passed off.
The version that's
Todd.
in the packet is already.
Yeah, it's a public.
I already, sorry, I already have control of that,
Oh, you
and
do?
we have that,
Okay.
because you
Yeah.
shared that for,
Okay.
and Patty Banfield sent it out
Great.
to allow people to say, if you have any input, to give it.
Yeah,
Is there a
'cause
way
now
I can make
it's
sure he
a
gets
public
access to the
document.
one, the comments I made then? I don't wanna put like too much on
he
you.
should, because it's, I have a 2-hour chunk of time at the election on Tuesday.
Yeah, okay.
I know what I'm doing.
I just,
so-
yeah, I just wanna make sure that
Yeah.
like Todd has like the comment.
Yeah, but someone needs to move it from my folder into somewhere else
Yeah.
in
Yep,
case
that will
my
be done.
folder is frozen.
Yep, we'll take
So-
care of that.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have the EFAA school lunch program. Do you want to discuss the changes, or Todd want to?
I mean, basically, this is just, all of the policies for the rest of the meeting are financial policies that Jana Mellon, after the audit was done, we had a bunch of recommendations for policies that should be reviewed, and so she did a pretty detailed job of going through and changing things to align with current practice and, appropriate accounting practices. When we got to the EFAA, we realized that this has been a subject that the board has, in the past, talked about. And although the red here are the recommendations that Jana made to the current policy to adjust it, we felt it would be appropriate to have a whole board discussion about it before we moved it forward for first read, just because I know there have been some strong feelings about how we handle lunch debt and all that kind of stuff. So that was the thinking here. Clearly, the adjustments that Jana made to this policy did not assume a change in philosophical direction of the policy. It just brought it in line with the law. So if there was something else people wanted to be our practice around lunch debt and how we managed it, this is an opportunity to talk about that.
It's not a suggestion, more of a question. So staff enforcement of policy / training, how does that work now that we've outsourced the operation of food service?
How does the staff who are working get trained?
Right.
They are trained, and it's part of the contract that they are given that training. There is a little bit of a quasi, clearly they work for us, and so the building principals are still supervising the management of the cafeteria and so forth. So when an issue comes up with a student account or so forth, the principals are drawn into it, so they're supervising that piece of it. But all the training is part of the contract that they're required to provide.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we didn't have like a weird gray area there. This is gonna sound like a strange analogy, but when community volunteers coach teams,
Mhm.
sometimes they can't know things about what's going on with students inside the building because they're
Gotcha.
not employees of the district, and that
Mhm.
creates kind of weird.
They have all the same information our food service people have had in the past. So,
Okay.
for example, if a student is, they know if it's a free and reduced lunch, so they know to appropriately charge that kind of
Okay.
thing. Yep, they have all that.
Thanks.
Is on, 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs down on page 1. It says, initial efforts. Do you see that?
Trying to page 1. Oh, yes, okay.
Is that one long sentence there? Is that where it says may be sent home via mail?
So basically, at the first, there's
So start the second sentence in that
Initial efforts.
paragraph.
where the district,
Yeah, so it says may be sent home via mail.
period.
Is that a period?
Yes, that's supposed to be a period at the
And
end.
then where the district has not received, it just doesn't
It
sound.
should say when the district.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. Again, we actually, at the policy committee, we actually stopped review. We just said, look, this is a topic that there's been a lot of strong feelings on the board, and we just decided bring it to you first. So the policy committee has not thoroughly reviewed Jana's recommendations on this.
Can I ask a question with the letters that you send to parents? Why does it have to be via mail and not an email? Is that, I'm just curious. Because it's costs, like, I've even gotten one for like $1 balance. And
Right.
it's like, it costs, how much to mail an envelope? Like, I don't
Yep.
even know anymore, 60 cents maybe more? I'm just curious, like, why can't it be sent by email?
I can. It absolutely can.
It just-
I would have to.
I think it's a waste of resources.
Yeah, it can be.
But-
I think it's an issue of getting people to respond and the legal process of making sure you've received a first
Yeah,
notice,
because
second
people
notice.
don't read their emails.
And all those things.
Okay. All right. Just curious.
So I think Todd's
So this
trying
is
to.
just a
Oops, sorry,
first
go ahead.
read.
Oh, yeah, but I think it's also trying to solicit, like, for instance, there's a part about, the account reaching zero and how that's handled and
Mhm.
enforcement of that and collection of debt and whether it's carried over, whether we think it should be carried over or not, things like that. And, I'm torn because obviously you don't want people to have a burden, but then again, some people take advantage, so if you don't carry it over,
So what,
they wouldn't never pay, so.
now when, to identify like a solution, it mentions engage in governmental and private charitable resources. What? What are
What
those?
page is that?
I'm sorry, on the page 1, part 1, page 222. Third to last paragraph
Thank you.
down.
Yeah, locally, we have like, there's some church groups that
Mhm.
supply resources.
So do we have like a separate fund at the
Yes,
school where?
in fact, yes, we've had, our nurses have access to some varying funds.
Oh, okay.
But there are multiple charitable groups. One of the things I have to commend Caitlin Skeena and Laura Youngberg for doing so well this year is coordinating local resources. So they have quite a network of people to
Mhm.
reach out to when a need comes up, whether it's
Okay.
a winter jacket or whatever.
Okay.
Does anyone have any thoughts on processes or things we'd like to see changed or collection methods or anything like that? Sometimes-
Bless you.
All right.
If there are
No.
no
I don't
strong-
think we do.
Yeah, so if there are no strong feelings, then we'll just bring it back to policy and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great, all right, thank you. I guess for the record, we also have policy first reads on DFA, investments, DGA, authorized signatures, DGD, school district credit cards, DH, bonded employees, DJE, bidding requirements, DKA, payroll procedures, DKC, expense reimbursements, DM, cash in school buildings, DN, equipment and supplies, sales and disposal, EF, food services management, and GCG, part-time and substitute professional staff employment. Does anyone have any thoughts on any of those before we move on?
If I, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to share that Jan explained to Phil and I that these were brought up not because of any situation, but because of an audit. So,
And I do, to Jana's credit, this sheet that I have here, you see all this yellow? This is all her notes on the specifics of each thing. So if there's any questions you have on any particular change, I can cite for you what the logic was. It's all about making sure our accounting practices align with what is appropriate, and also some of our internal management systems, just getting them in line with the reality of what we're really doing.
This is not necessarily a question about the policy, more of a general question. Authorized signatures, so I assume the district has like a written delegation of authority document about who's permitted to sign what, under what circumstances?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So there's, at each, for example, at each building, there are different activity accounts, and the building principals have the capacity to sign off on a requisition for any of those. All checks are issued out of the central office.
And as far as signing any, not necessarily signing something to send money out, but signing something like signing the district up for a service, for instance, that where there'll be a bill that will come due.
Yeah, actually, we have had, that has been a point of struggle with us as a system. We have had a few times where we have had people, signing up for a service that was not approved by the district, and we've had to extricate ourselves from it. Basically, the message is that the only person who can sign a contract for the district is me, or somebody I designate for that purpose. And so, so we are working to make sure that is the case. I would be lying to you if I told you we were 100% in compliance with that. I've had a couple of times where people, completely good-naturedly, they were just simply trying to sign up for a field trip or something, and they're signing on the dotted line for the district, which they can't do.
As a thought, and the district attorney would have better thoughts on how to do this than I would, but there is a thing some companies do to some greater or lesser benefit where they just put a statement on their website, very publicly facing, that only certain people are allowed to bind the organization by virtue of a signature. And at least that way, if you got into an argument with somebody because, again, somebody good-naturedly went on the internet and signed up for a service, and suddenly they're sending us a bill for $3,000 that, well, hey, look, all you had to do was look here and realize that the person who signed that wasn't authorized.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely have some conversation with the council about that. Yep.
All right, moving along to acknowledge donations. Do you want to present those, Todd?
Sure.
So I don't completely watch everyone's name.
Okay, so we have 3 donations to acknowledge. One from the PTA. It was a $700 donation for a children's author, poet Matt Forrest Essenwine, will be presenting at the elementary school, and the staff member who has arranged that is the library media specialist at the elementary school, Jennifer Golkasian. Second donation we received. Next two are actually both from NCEP, $500 donation for graduation gowns and flowers. Students Jonathan Tudor and Emma Wolkowiak are responsible for acquiring that grant. And then the other grant is $750 to the Wellness Day at the Junior Senior High School, and Caitlin Skeena was the person who acquired that grant.
Fantastic.
Thank you to all those entities for supporting Newmarket programming.
Absolutely. All right, we'll head into, action items. First up, we have minutes for the 15th, public and non-public. Andrew wasn't here, so obviously we'll abstain for those. I'd seek a motion to approve the February 15th public and non-public minutes.
So moved.
Second.
A motion from Phil, a second from Dan. Oops. Is there any discussion, corrections?
On page 5 of the public ones, the misspelling of Blake Neary's name looks like it carried over to the minutes. I don't know if that was
Did it?
intentional or
Probably not. So it should be Blake, not Black, Neary, is that what you're saying?
Ah, okay. We'll make sure that's fixed.
Any other items? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions?
Aye.
Thank you. Manifest roulette. Andrew, do you want to do this as the
manifest
last?
of your career?
Yeah. Okay.
At least on this body.
Yeah. I make a motion to approve the manifest of the week of March 7th, 2024 for the amount of $822,744.34.
Second.
All right, motion, I have a second from Phil. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Seek a motion to approve the senior high field trip to the Great East Music Festival in
So moved.
Agawam, Mass.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Amy. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I didn't get the feeling that anyone wanted to go into non-public to discuss anything.
Did-
Had the desire, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Did anyone have desire to appoint someone to reach out to any new board members between now and the first meeting, or just want to think about that for the future?
I think it's a great idea.
It sounds like there's already been some outreach from
Okay.
Todd. so-
Yeah.
Great.
How about is there a board member who would like to join me in meeting with her to welcome her to the board?
Okay.
Amy?
There we go. Okay, perfect.
Us females need to stick together.
So, is there any interest in having a non-public? Todd, do you have any? No?
I don't have any concerns to raise, no. I appreciate that, like I said, the thoughtful, valued response. Appreciate it.
Yeah, if we're not going to, I just want to say how much I've just enjoyed this, and that I'm so happy with the progress the district's done underneath your guidance, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your 3 years of service to the Newmarket School District. It's a,
Absolutely.
it's a big commitment, and we do really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up, there's a conflict with our first meeting in the new session. Dana will be on an aircraft somewhere. And because that's the election of officers and appointment to committees, thought it may make sense to move that. Obviously, the dates are somewhat difficult. Well, if it was going to be a Thursday, it would have to be on the 14th.
Or the 28th.
Or the 28th.
Well, I guess it could be the 28th, that's true.
I'd be fine with either. I mean, I guess given that if we have it here, we don't really conflict with anybody using council chambers.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Is there I'm fine with either.
Either is fine with me. Hey,
28th is fine with me.
okay.
thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
So next meeting will be on
Anything for you, Dan.
March 28th, and that will be in the cafetorium right across the hall.
Correct.
So everyone remembers.
Okay, so no meeting the 21st,
Correct.
taking that out.
I'll
Right.
have Patty send out an invite in the morning.
Thank you very much. So again, thank you, Andrew, for your service. And
Yeah, thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, guys.
Does he get a watch or something?
It's in the mail.
I have something waiting for me in the fridge right now. No, I just want to say how much I've enjoyed working with each and every one of you. I think I'm so proud of where the district is now, and just to think I had a small part of that, I'm very proud of, so thank you guys.
Thank you.
With that, I will seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
And a motion from Andrew, second by Amy. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 With that, remind everyone, the election, something coming up, something.
March
Probably
12th,
should've-
7 to 7,
Probably should have mentioned that on air.
auditorium.
Yeah.
Yep. There we go.
Those are all yours.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We all are? Yeah.
We are. Don't forget your lapels.